Jedi Master Kenobi. Reliable, powerful, and has the high ground. One of the most important characters in the game, JMK has been one of the more popular GLs to go for ever since his release in 2021. Now, a year since I've acquired him, he has been an integral part of my roster, giving me wins in JAC and helping me progress in Conquest. Now, with the recent updates and of course the release of the Great Dragon Raid, it's more important now more than ever to optimize your character farming and progression. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my latest insights and tips on how to efficiently farm him given the current state of the game. Whether you are a beginner or seasoned player, I'm confident that you'll find value in the information I'm about to share. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. JMK is a tricky farm for newer players or some mid-game players chasing him, since his requirements are not based on a single team, but on characters taken from different teams that you have to farm. So to optimize your farming path for both GAC and of course the Krayt Dragon Raid, here's a simple guide you can follow. So a quick disclaimer, this is a subjective guide based on my experience. So take everything with a grain of salt since you guys, the players who are watching this video, will have a better gauge if you will farm JMK or not. So let's begin with the special tier, which is the Krayt Raid. I suggest going for this first, since every character you will farm up for the new raid will help you and the guild progress it. So the characters to farm would be Jango Fett, Cad Bane, and Bo-Katan, with Bo-Katan having the lowest priority in this set. And of course, among the three, the easiest to go would be Cad Bane, since he is on a Galactic War Star, as you can see here. So unlock him fast and as soon as possible so that you can farm up other characters for GMK also found in the Galactic War Star, aka Qui-Gon Jinn, which will be discussed later. So another benefit for farming Cad Bane is that he's a pilot for his ship, the Xanadu's Blood, which will be useful or which is needed actually to unlock the finalizer and of course in turn unlock SLKR, because of course you will be needing the finalizer to unlock SLKR. But going back to the point, so that's Cad Bane. But among the hard node farming, I suggest going for Jango Fett first. Jango Fett, his node also contains Houndstooth, and as we all know, Houndstooth is a very important tank ship. Well, not very important, but one of the best tank ships in the game. And of course, he is needed to unlock the Executor, Hans Millennium Falcon, and Finalizer. So that's two capital ships plus a legendary. So that's why his node has tremendous value. Now, going to Bo-Katan, she is needed under a Maul lead or like under a Maul Mandalorian team, and her AoE and days is needed. And for smaller accounts chasing for JMK, it is fine since every character you can farm up and use for the new raid would mean progression for you. So I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to prioritize her or not, but definitely get Jango Fett and Cad Bane first. Now let's move on to the highest priority after the Krayt Raid. And these five are General Kenobi, General Grievous, of course, Shakti, Wat Tambor, and Magna Guard. Among the five, trickiest would be Wat Tambor, simply because you will be needing to farm him in Darkside GOTB, and you will be needing 5 Geonosians, or the whole Geonosian team, to get him. So if you have your Geonosians unlocked, that's great. That means you're helping the guild get Wat Tambor shards. If not, I suggest getting them to help out your guild. And of course, I'm assuming and hope that you are in a guild that is doing the dark side Geonosian territory battles. Now, besides Wat Tambor, you'll be needing to farm General Kenobi. So he's up first simply because you can get him in the raids. But given the changes, now you will now be getting him, well, more efficiently, I guess, in the guild store, because currently at the state of the game, the HSTR raid gives the most rewards if you're not doing so well in the Krayt raid. So if you don't have him farm up yet, I suggest using, well, your Mark 1 raid tokens to get him as fast as possible. Or if you're doing the tank raid, it's fine. But again, that depends on your guild if they're going for the heroic AAT raid. Another benefit for getting General Kenobi is, of course, the negotiator. He's the pilot here. And the negotiator is really needed for JMK. So that's already two in one value. So besides being a great tank and of course the pilot for his ship, he is also a very essential character under the JMK team. And of course he is one of the best Jedi tanks in the game. Now that's all for General Kenobi. Let's move on to General Grievous. General Grievous can only be found in the Shard store. And if you're planning to whale on him, I suggest like buying the $20 pack here, which immediately unlocks him. If not, then it's fine because he's very accessible in the shard store anyway. So why do you want to get him as early as possible? Simply because he's essential in getting Padme. In AKA, it will make your life easier if you have him and the droids or like a decent separatist team. So that's for Grievous. Moving on to Shakti. Shakti is a early mid game leader, pardon me, for clones if you do not have gas, and is also good under Padme lead because normally you would be using General Kenobi if you still don't have JMK, but if you have JMK already, you'll be pulling General Kenobi out of the Padme lead team. In replacement for General Kenobi, you can use Shakti because Shakti gives healing as well as cleanse with Assault team. So where can you farm Shakti? You can farm her in the fleet battles, hard node, difficulty 5, so that's a bit far off. But if you unlock at least at this level, then of course farm her up as soon as possible. So that's all for Shakti. We've discussed already what Tambor. Now lastly, it's Magna Guard. Magna Guard, of course, very important tank under a Grievous lead and useful as well for a full droid separatist team and sometimes can be plugged and play, I guess, if you have other droids and of course if you have Watambor already. Among the 5, he's the easiest to farm simply because he has 2 farming nodes. One is the Cantina Battle node at 3C and of course the hard node at 6E. So if you already unlock both of these nodes, I suggest farming this up ASAP before it gets nerfed or like one of the nodes would be replaced with a newer character, as which CG tends to do nowadays. Now that's all for the first tier. Let's move on to the second priority, which is Qui-Gon Jinn, Clone Sergeant, and Mace Windu. Among the 3, Qui-Gon Jinn would be your primary focus here after farming the first, 8, I guess, or 7. Qui-Gon Jinn is farmable, of course, in the not Galactic War Store, but in the Cantina Battle Store. So if you have so many Cantina Battle like tokens or shards or whatever it's called, just farm him up ASAP. If you have a spare Omicron, use it on his leader because it supercharges the Jedi team if there are no Galactic Legends, of course. And if he dies first, the remaining Jedis would be like beasts, I guess, if you want to call him that. Simply because he will give them 400% offense and of course recover all of their health if they're like low. And that is why Qui-Gon Jinn's Omicron lead is very useful in JAC. Without it, I would put Qui-Gon Jinn at a lower priority. But yeah, that's all for Qui-Gon Jinn. Now moving to Clone Sergeant. You want Clone Sergeant simply because he's a pilot for his ship and you can farm him easily at the light side hard node. So he's just here because he's a pilot of this ship, the ARC 170, and the ARC 170 is one of the ships or like part of the composition of the negotiator fleet. Now last but not the least is Mace Windu. For Mace Windu, he's just an extra tank, or he can be used in JAC for niche situations simply because his second rework made him better. If you can mod him properly and put him in a proper team, he has the potential to take down a Mangles-led team because of his ability Shatterpoint, where he reduces Malgus' offense, health, and defense by 10%, technically making Malgus a liability on the team. And of course, lastly, you can use Mace under a JMK lead as an alternate tank if you need to use General Kenobi elsewhere. So that's all for this second priority. Now let's move to the last one, which is Commander Cody and Ayla Secura. Nothing much to say for these two since I've rarely used them at all in the game. Unless there is like a new character that can lift these two up, they'll be placed as the last priority to farm. So that's all for the character farming. Now let's talk about gear and relic farming real quick. The Krayt Dragon Raid drastically decreased everyone's gear and relic farms, especially Aeromags that you'll be needing to get characters to Relic 8. Now, if you're wondering why I have 153 Aeromags, that's because I've been stockpiling them ever since I finished Relicing Yoda to like Relic 8. So I haven't Relic up any characters to like Relic 8 since then. So they're like just here collecting dust. But that's besides the point. The point being is that you have to be more efficient now in your farming for Aeromags, simply because they can only be found at the guild store with Mark III raid tokens, as well as the weekly shipments, which is quite expensive. 10 Aeromags for 2,500 crystals. So for JMK, you need 40 of them because General Kenobi and Grandmaster Yoda would be needing them at Relic 8, so that's 40. So since you need 40, you need a 10,000 crystals to save up just to get both of them to Relic 8. I know it's a very ugly situation, but until like something changes, this is the way to go. Ideally, you want to use your Mark III tokens, but if you don't have a high score at the like personal record or the guild record at the Krayt Dragon Raid, you're left with like using the shipments for not crystal farming, but Aeromag farming. Now for the rest of the characters in game, so that means everyone here, I suggest gearing them up like 1 or 2 at a time, because if you try or attempt to gear everyone up, that would lead you to a shortage of guild tokens, get currency, Grand Arena currency, I guess, for farming Karateks, and that is like putting a strain already to your resources, and that's not efficient. So just gear up 1 to 2 at a time. If you have like a surplus, maybe a third, but I leave it up to you to like be the final judge on that. So that's all for gear and relic farming. Now moving on to the last part, I want to discuss real quick, should you rush JMK right now or not? Now, if you're starting from scratch, I suggest going for something else, since the Aeromag farm right now is too steep. It's very deep. Like 40 Aeromags for 10,000 crystals is a lot. I would rather farm up other teams that doesn't require Relic 8, or if it requires Relic 8, maybe one character like Jabba, or without Relic 8s, maybe SLKR, or C, maybe Rey, maybe Jedi Master Luke. I leave it up to you. I don't wanna force anyone to like farm up XYZ if they don't feel it, but given the current state of the game, it's better to prioritize farming up teams for like the new raid or something that doesn't require you to farm up relics heavily, because given the new changes to relic farming, gear farming, it may take you around, in my estimates, 8 to 10 months now, from like 5 to 6 months, since most of the gear rewards from the raids have been drastically reduced. So that's all of my tips and insights for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content, because if you do, please do subscribe so that you won't miss future videos. May the force be with you, amazing holotable heroes, and I'll see you in the next one.